having high inflation. We don't see anything like that now. We do see high wages. We see them for people who are mostly new, entering into new jobs, many of them in low-skilled jobs. And but we do think you've got a thing in the labor market right now where supply and demand are just not matched up well. And we think it's a flexible economy, and it will clear. There will be a level at which supply and demand meet, and we think that'll be happening in coming months. So, but the last thing I'll say is, again, if you look at the forecasts, we're going to be in a very strong labor market.
Okay, so we have a strong labor market. You were also hinting in this speech about rate hikes. You kept it soft, but you did mention it. Credible threats at its best, just like my last video. For sure, the feds are using their tools. 3 Fed presidents also came out this week to parrot Fed Chairman Jerome Powell to threaten a little bit more. They will aggressively use their tools if needed to. They are really kicking this can a little bit more down the road. I can only hope you guys are as clear as I am that this is the game that they are playing. It's their money. They call the shots. It's their rules. Now, since they are kicking the can down the street or down the road, right? They are going to let inflation run super duper hot. It's gonna rock and roll.
This is fine. I'm okay with the events that are unfolding currently. That's okay. Things are gonna be okay.
Hey guys, it's Jose, your regular Joe Blow again, keeping an eye out and my ears open to the news that's impacting our pockets as we speak. And the truth is, no one is coming to save us. They are turning a blind eye as we speak, and this is perfectly scripted. You cannot make this up if you want it. So let's hear them out.
Here.
So it's not really a debate now whether there's going to be a rate hike in March. Fed Chair Powell pretty much said as much. But now there's this discussion about how big the Fed should go to combat inflation, a 50 basis point hike, for instance. How are you thinking about what needs to be done and when?
Well, I'd like the Fed to get better positioned. I think we've got a good part of the year to get there. And I think how fast we go just depends on how the economy develops.
5 interest rate hikes, I think, is where Goldman was this morning, this year. Do you think that's what it's going to take to bring down inflation?
I think a lot depends on how the real side of inflation develops this year. We know that goods supply chain issues are going to ease in time. That should bring prices down. We know there's pressure on the service side from rising wages. That'll put pressure up. And I'm just going to be looking to see how inflation develops through the year.
I think that's an important risk to that outlook, is thinking about what happens as we come into the fall, whether we see any resurgence in the virus that would cause additional pullback in the economy. So we'll monitor that carefully to see whether that plays out. What it requires of the Fed in terms of adjustments to policy, I think we really have to wait and see. I think even at the point that we resolve the health issue that is affecting the economy today, what we can't yet know until the dust settles is what has been the impact of the economy longer term. I think there's a lot yet for us to learn in terms of how we think about calibrating policy in the months ahead.
Okay, so now what do we do? What are possibilities? What can we do? Who better than ex-market analyst, now YouTuber, Tom Nash, give us some feedback on what potentially happened in the approximate 6 months to a year with the Feds. Now remember, every time the Feds say something, you usually see it come to fruition within the next 6 months to a year. It takes all of that for us to see it and feel it in our day-to-day. They play defense, not offense. So let's hear Tom Nash.
And this was not an accident. Completely changes my mind that the Fed is going to kick the can down the road, and we're about to see a good 6 months of an insane bull run in the market across the board, but mainly in specific areas, which I'm going to tell you about in a second. So a few days ago, Jerome Powell gave his latest speech, and he was famously kind of sluggish. He was tentative, he was passive. He basically said, well, I don't know, we'll see what happens. The market interpreted it as uncertainty, and then the stock market, especially the growth sector, went even deeper down. But what happened yesterday basically changed the entire interpretation of what Jerome Powell said and completely changes my mind as far as the schedule of how this thing is going to play out. So yesterday, we had a coordinated, orchestrated PR move by the Fed. 3 Fed officials, same day, that's not an accident, come out and say the same thing. We had Esther George from Kansas City, we had Thomas Barkin from Richard, and Mary Daly from San Francisco. All come out and say the same thing with different words. We probably don't need to raise as much interest rates as we initially thought. Now, couple that, the coordinated attack basically to let people know, hey, things are not as bad as they seem, carry on, everything is fine. You couple that with what happened in the bond market in the last few months, I think that we're about to see a massive bull run because the bond market for the past 6 months is up from 1.1 to 1.75% for the 10-year bond, a 60% increase in the interest rate for the 10-year bond. Now, that in essence is kind of the bond market carrying the load for the Fed. In fact, it seems like the bond market is basically doing the Fed job to an extent. But you have to couple that with what the Fed officials said yesterday. And they all came out yesterday morning and said the same thing, which basically caused people to realize what's going on here. The Fed is basically admitting that they're going to kick the can down the road. And that basically means that that interest rate spike that we actually are anticipating is not going to happen for the next 6 months. Now, check this out. This on its own isn't enough. You had to have a triggering event. That was enough just to push it down the road a little bit. But what sparked the gasoline? Well, yesterday we had a lot of shorts starting to cover because over the past few weeks, because everything was so down, a lot of shorting activity was in the market. And after the Fed officials came out and said what they said, that sent the stock market a little bit up, causing a lot of shorts to cover, basically creating this snowball effect, sending that spark plug up and the stock market up. That's exactly what happened yesterday.
Okay, guys, now we know that what can possibly happen. This is not financial advice. Do your own due diligence. Do your research. Now let's hear from the ninja on how to prep for this again. Not financial advice. I'm just a YouTuber, and this is my opinion. Fair use.
And I think that's very significant. And the reason why I say that is because I've done some videos. I actually believe that oil was going to be hitting $80 back in the fall, and it's obviously taken a lot longer. But the point is that it is getting more expensive, which is leading to higher fuel prices. Now, something I think is very important is to go back to 2007 to 2008, where we started to see the price of oil rise, and it sent the price of fuel higher. It actually sent it to an all-time high in our nation's average in 2008. And by the early summer of 2008, there were already banking pressures, already mortgage issues with the MBS debacle. But it was the rising price of gas that really woke people up. And the reason why I say that is because we started to see semi-trucks pulled over on the side of the road because they simply were not making enough money because of the cost of fuel to make money on their loads. They started pulling over and saying, we're done. We started seeing fuel surcharges everywhere, but really it was Main Street USA that was feeling the biggest pinch. You see, there was obviously a boom in SUVs back then. It was pretty amazing. And people were paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars extra per month to do their normal everyday driving. And that was pulling so much money out of their monthly budgets. So what happened is they started to curtail their spending. Now we see a time way worse than that. And it's not being an alarmist. It's called the truth. There's some people out there in YouTube land that go, oh, you're spreading FUD. I'm like, no, it's just a fact. If you don't like it, you should go find yourself a safe space, suck your thumb, and I'm sure there's some awesome videos of kittens out there that'll make you feel happy and normal, but the truth is the truth. Right now, fuel prices are bumping all-time highs, which means people have less money in their pockets to spend on things like vacations and Netflix subscriptions and things like that. So they're going to start to withdraw, start spending less. But not only that, what is even worse is that food inflation is going through the roof. Not only that, we are coupled with shortages. The facts are this. People are spending more money on food and fuel, just like I said they would be last year this time, in August. I said by August, people are going to be thinking more about the cost of food and fuel than they are thinking about what's on Netflix. Honestly, it has been trending in the news for a while. The thing is right now, like you see the Federal Reserve threatening or promising that they're going to do something about inflation, but they are not. The fact is, the only thing they've done is pulled back a little bit of the aid that they've been giving. That's it. And even that, the markets can't handle. So, what do? This is the most important thing. We need to think clearly as we enter spring, leaving winter. We need to maybe pull back on our spending. Maybe we shouldn't be going out. I know we want to go out and live life again normal. This 2 years has been too much. But honestly, maybe we shouldn't be spending money on that vacation. Why? The reason why is because we need money saved for even higher prices to come. See, the Federal Reserve, I do believe, is going to actually raise rates, but it's not going to do much because the markets can't take it.
Great information. Great information. Guys, as always, thank you for sticking with me to the end. I'll continue to keep an eye out, my ears open for more news and how we can surf this wave, excel, and prevail. Stay free.
It ain't hard to tell. I excel, then prevail.